was a robbery. And that was my fault because I acquiesced and allowed that situation to happen. And then we got a new date, and then the fires came. And I'm like, man, what is going on here? And then we get closer to this date, and then we don't have a room. And I'm like, yo, wait a minute. But again, this is some of the other great speakers that came on before me. It's about asking yourself a question. What is it that I am doing that's not in alignment with allowing this event to happen the way that it's supposed to happen? And sometimes we have to take a really close look at ourselves. We have to be really honest with ourselves. And I saw that I was out of alignment. I was out of alignment with this event. I was out of alignment with making this thing happen. I was out of alignment with myself. I was going through a lot of things, as some of y'all probably know. and because of that, I realized, wow, I have to get back in alignment. There's a lot of things that aren't clicking, not just this event, but many other things outside of this just weren't clicking. To the world on the outside, it's like, this guy can't be stopped. But based on the inside, some of the things I know that you would never know that I'm supposed to have done or have been accomplished, or some things that benchmarks I set for myself, they had not been met. And give myself some type of credit. I still have done quite a bit, but there were some other things that I really wanted to manifest. And because of the situations and so forth that I had put myself in, I allowed those things to get out of my range via frequency. My vibration wasn't matching what I wanted. And so in being honest with myself, I had to go sit down. I have this room in my house that I go, it's so dark. This room is so dark that if I put my hand right here in front of my face, I can't even see my hand. And I sit in that room sometimes. That's like my quiet place that I go to sit down and just think, focus, introspect, go to inner space, and ask myself some really, really deep questions and wait for the answer. Like Mike said this morning, many of us can't even sit with ourselves for 5 minutes. I sat in that room for actually about 2.5, almost 3 hours. And finally it came to me. It came to me. I realized that the reason why things are going the way that they're going is because I got a little bit too cocky. That's fine. I got a little bit too egotistical. I got a little bit too much of myself. Sometimes when I'm doing these rants and stuff, you gotta get boasty, you gotta get rough, because that's how people like it, and that really, to be honest, it gets the point across. I can get a point across like nobody else. I can make a person sit back and think, oh man, did he really just say that like that? That's kind of cold, he didn't even hold back on us. But there's something in that technique also that creeps into your soul, so you have to be very wary of how you use it, when you use it, and how to also cleanse yourself from that. Because over many, many years of using that technique, which really reaches a lot of people in a massive way. I'll be honest, many people won't listen to me if I just got on the mic and said, hey everyone, this is Billy Carson, I'm with Forbidden Knowledge. And I want to share with you some information about a government conspiracy that might be affecting us. I don't know, man. That ain't getting no views. Okay? Exactly. So you gotta snap. You gotta snap sometimes. But in snapping, you enter a gray area. Because you have to shift. I shifted frequency. You can visually see it in my countenance. You can see it in my eyes. You can hear it in my voice. When I'm snapping, I'm dropping facts. But that snap, that flip, that switch that I have to flip, it's still sending a frequency and a vibration, not only out, but also internally. And so over time, you begin to see the results of this. You begin to feel the praise and the adoration and the likes and the comments. And I think I'm at 2.5 billion views collectively online right now. That's more than any video. And then, but what can happen with that is, you can feel a little bit kind of way about yourself. You can be like, yeah, what I'm saying, I got the juice, man. I got it, I got this. Now, there's a very fine line between ego and confidence. You gotta push that confidence confidence to the max, but you can't cross over into ego. And once you cross over into ego, then it gives you the power to destroy everything you built. You can watch everything you create crumble right before your very eyes if you can't understand that thin, fine line between the two. Being in sports growing up, track, basketball, I had a one-day football career. I was a quarterback, I got sacked, dislocated my knee, career over. But ran multiple, track and field, hurdles, long jump, relay race, basketball, of course, is my true passion. Played that at a pretty decent level for someone with no real good training. Tried out for a couple of pro teams. Didn't make it. Luckily, I had a backup called marketing and sales. But the point I'm making is through all of that, you develop this strong confidence in yourself. I had to have that confidence. I came from abject poverty. Some of y'all know my story. I came from extreme poverty. I came from a place where if you didn't have the confidence, you weren't going to make it. You would get gobbled up and devoured. And I watched people all around me get devoured by the city, get devoured by their own neighbors, even their own family members. I've watched them when I say devoured, I'm talking about shot, stabbed, killed. I'm talking about the most cold-blooded things. One neighbor got stabbed 115 times by his own brother. And that was his twin brother, over a girl. And this is a daily sighting on the block, Seeing a body laying in the street all day, and watching the crime scene unit just leave it there, just let it stay out in the hot sun all day, blood leaking all over the street, tar. And then finally they decide to pick it up and move it away, and then the parents have to come out and clean up the blood, And so you see this and you have to draw a line in the sand. Some people who saw that, where I grew up, they were like, I gotta get the hell out of here. And some people were like, this is my reality. And so some people stayed, and some people did everything they could to get the hell out. I was one of the ones who did whatever it took to get out. That required me to gain a lot of self-confidence. Like I had to get self-confidence to the upteenth degree to where I believed anything that I thought of was achievable, and anything I set my heart to do, I could accomplish it. That's what it took to get out of there. And that really drove me. When I went to Dr. Daniel Amen and got a SPECT scan, and he looked at my brain scan, he put this radioactive fluid in my body to go to the brain, and he did a SPECT scan of my brain. He looked at my brain, he read my brain like a book. He saw a trauma diamond on top. So when you get a SPECT scan, you see a diamond pattern on top, that means that person went through significant trauma in their life, significant trauma. He knew that I had been through significant trauma, but he said, luckily, because of the mindset I took, I developed something called PTG, not PTSD. PTSD will give you the victim mindset, like Robert Grant was talking about earlier. PTG is post-traumatic growth syndrome. So I developed post-traumatic growth, fortunately for me, because that allowed me to take those traumas and use that to catapult myself to a higher level. But that also has a side effect. The side effect of that is overachieving, holding yourself too accountable, building a big ego, being overconfident, in certain situations. It's a very, very delicate balance. It can rescue you from a situation, but not kept at bay, it can literally devour you too. So, some of us are going through things and, we're trying to overcome them, and based on our past situations, some of us might have not been able to realize that we have to balance the ego. Balancing the ego with confidence, a very, very important thing. It's a fine line. You can take your confidence to the absolute max, and as you should. But you have to have something called awareness. The awareness will bring you back down. Once I developed the awareness of what it was, that day sitting in that dark room, I realized, I see it now. This overconfidence developed into ego, which developed into toxic ego. And that has shifted my frequency. I'm still accomplishing, I'm still doing a lot of things, I'm still moving and shaking, but there's just something, when you get that radio, how many of y'all had the old radio you had to tune the radio into? You had to tune the dial, right? Some of y'all up there with me. The digital guys and girls, y'all don't know about this. We used to have to just tweak it just right to get that radio station in there. if you turn it too hard to the left or too far to the right, you get a lot of static on the line. Well, I had static on my line. I had a lot of static. I had static on my line. And so that static on my line was taking me out of the vibration. I was kind of in it a little bit, but not fully. See, so manifesting is more than just, having thoughts and doing the manifestations and doing the rituals and everything else. It's a lot of self-realization. It's a lot of Robert Grant talked about this earlier. It's a lot of self-realization. You're going to have to go into some dark corners of yourself, and you're going to have to expose them. And only you know where they are. Not even your spouse. I don't care if you've been married for 50 years. You got some stuff that he or she never heard of or never saw, don't even know exists within you. And it's okay. The point is, you know it's there. Have you dealt with any of it? And a lot of it requires us to go and do things like relive emotions, relive situations, relive traumas that happened, relive situations, maybe things that we did wrong, that we don't want to have to even face anymore, right? But until you face them, until you relive them, until you address them, man, they're going to be there lurking, and they're going to be shifting you just out of phase with what you're really trying to accomplish, what you really want to manifest into your life. And you'll be scratching your head. Man, I'm doing all the rituals. I'm eating the good food. I'm working out. I'm doing all the classes. I'm studying everything. I'm going to all the conferences. I have all the books. What's going on? It's something inside, right? It's something inside. I mean, both speakers earlier today touched on what's inside is going to manifest on the outside. You heard me talk about so many times. If you come to my house, you're going to see that everything is in order. And if something gets out of order, it ain't like that for too long. Because eventually it's got to get put back into its right place. And it's got to get cleaned up, right? Otherwise, I'm giving you a representation of internally what's going on inside of me. Anything that you are around that becomes chaotic is showing a version of yourself from the inside manifesting on the outside. And a lot of us are chaotic on the inside. We're not really on the right frequency internally, and we expect the frequency externally to manifest, and we expect everything we want to just fall right into place. Meanwhile, internally, we're churning. We're churning and burning because we don't want to be honest with ourselves. Well, being honest with yourself, that takes a lot of courage. Nobody wants to look at themselves in the mirror and say, yeah, I screwed up here, or I messed up over there, or I could have handled that situation better. Or, man, I got a little too pompous on this situation. I got too egotistical over here. Or I didn't talk to this person that well. I kind of talked down to this person. I disrespected somebody in a way maybe that I shouldn't have. Or I got angry too many times over this situation, and I know better than to get angry over something like this. We have to start questioning ourselves. If you aren't questioning yourself, if you aren't being honest with yourself, you're not going to be on the frequency of manifestation. You can still do some great things, but you'll still feel like you're missing out on some of the greater things, some of the things that you internally know that people on the outside will never know or see, that you're not hitting those limits, you're not hitting those benchmarks, I should say. You're not hitting those benchmarks. And it's because of what's going on internally.